They have tried to hide so much from us, but the truth always comes out. We're going to dig into it. Please like, subscribe, and I would love to read your comments. If there's something that you would like to see in a future video, please let me know below and I will make it happen. Let's get into it.
The Zapruder tape. He stands up and he starts playing this tape. It was the Zapruder tape of the Kennedy assassination, but then he slowed it way down. And it was so slow that you could almost see the air moving. Then you saw the driver take a gun and go like this and shoot Kennedy, and the bullet comes out of the gun this slow, very, very, very slow. And it hits Kennedy in the head, and you see everything flying out of his head. And I'm thinking, this isn't the tape I ever saw before. So I said, is this a doctored tape? What's this about? And he said, this is the original one. And I said, no, you know. And he says, well, I'm going to show you the one that you've seen on the media. Now, the next tape is your typical one where the driver just keeps driving, never even flinches with the gun. And he stops the tape. And he says, look at the tree. And there's the top of a tree growing in air. And he says, this is the one that you're seeing on the media. And it's been doctored. He looked very, very intently at me and he said, nothing is as it appears to be.
You know, I've always wondered if Jackie Kennedy saw who shot her husband and she was climbing on the back of the car to try to get away from him. I don't know. It's just something to think about. Also, I think the CIA was involved, but that's going to be in a future video.
The Pentagon, CNN's military affairs correspondent, Jamie McIntyre. And Jamie, you got very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this sideway, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere.
Oh, the Pope is kissing the Rockefeller's hands. Rings. We know the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are two of the major figures that run the world. Very corrupt, very evil.
Cannot hide away from human population growth because, you know, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
They're not even hiding it any longer. What was the population in the year 1500? About 500 million. What on earth could take place that would cause a planet with 9 billion people on it to be reduced by 95% to 500 million?
What do you propose?
I propose that we end the world, but on our terms. An orchestrated apocalypse. One that will cleanse the earth of its population but leave its infrastructure and resources intact. It's been done once before, with great success. The chosen few will ride out the storm, not in an ark as in the book of Genesis, but in...
Does he think he's Noah? What's going on?
Safety, underground. And when it's over, we will emerge onto a cleansed earth, one that we can then reboot in our image.
And just how do you intend to achieve this?
The means of our salvation are already at hand. I give to you the T-virus.
You're at least deliberately.
Oh, of course. They've been trying that for a few years now. 5 years to be exact.
Reducing population growth, that's this big benefit. The key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health.
In the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations.
I would like to reduce the number of people on the planet because there's too many of us.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population,
Wait. What the?
more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
We could breathe clean air if they would stop spraying us like bugs. And we could drink clean water if they would stop putting so many chemicals in it, aka fluoride for one.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that. We're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
What the?
So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
You say the next pandemic. There will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when.
History teaches us that the next pandemic is a matter of when, not if.
We know what's next. We're going to have another major coronavirus pandemic before the end of this decade, before 2030.
If we really want to prevent the next pandemic, and there will be one, there will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic.
They mean plandemic, just like the last one?
What role in the Middle East again does Israel play in this?
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecy, a war that would be so terrible, where nuclear weapons will be used, so that the American citizens and the other people in the world would get down on their knees and beg for no more war. And what is the answer to that? They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity in a one world government.
William Cooper was such a smart man, way ahead of his time. If you ever get a chance to research him, I highly suggest it.
That he was at the house one night, and he would talk, and he started laughing. He said, "Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about?" And I said, I'm pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote. And he started to laugh. He said, "You're an idiot." And I said, "Why am I an idiot?" He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, and we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He says, there were two primary reasons. And one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up the family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for Women's Lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. When I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble adventure.
Talk you heard about
The Rockefellers and the Carnegies, with the help of the Carnegies, they initiated all of this. And it was not only to break up families, but it was also, like you said, more income tax. Instead of just from the man, they get income tax from the wife too.
5G interfacing with the shots, it's true. DARPA research and the operational programs to infect us with remote controllable prion clusters in the brain before they even rolled out COVID. I just got chills. This is so evil. I mean, this is how you take over. You colonize people. You implant everybody with these, whether you've had the shot or not. It's everywhere. You get these proteins growing in you. They hit you with the frequency, and it looks like you died of a stroke. Man, this is bad. All over your brain, hit you with it. Bzzz, crystals grow in the next few days, cut through arteries, cut through veins, cut through capillaries, stroke out. Or he says we can just hit them with a light dose and just fog everybody out and make them sick where they can't think straight.
Well, it was was an architectural defect. You know, the World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation. And it withstood that. And I got to see that area about 3 or 4 days after it took place because one of my structural engineers actually took me for a tour because he did the building. And I said, I can't believe it. The building was standing solid, and half of the columns were blown out. I mean, so this was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows, you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams, when I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel. And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall.
Absolutely explosions.
You spent your life in the entertainment business, so I think you have some authority on this.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. They're full-on vampires. And everybody still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They're full-on vampires. They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood. They do, Tucker. Stop staring at me like that.
You're freaking me out, man.
So many kids that I was in mental institutions with over the years, they are all from those cults. And they've covered it all up. They covered it all up.
They like adrenochrome. It's very widely known. And Roseanne spoke out about it, and they really shunned her from Hollywood, which was probably a good thing.
We made it outside. We made it about a block. We made it at least 2 blocks, and we started running. Floor by floor, it started popping out.
It was like, if they had detonated.
Detonated.
They were planned to take down a building. Boom, 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 boom.
All the way down. I was watching it and running. Just ran up West Street. And then you just sort of this cloud of shit chasing you down.
Couldn't
just ran
outrun
up West Street.
There's a bunch of real left-wing group. That's it. He's got a bunch of left-wing writers, and they put it in him, and that's the way he is.
And they all come from one group.
I know.
You look at their names, you know.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's the whole thing is a Jewish group.
Well, you see, the Bible teaches that there is the synagogue of Satan. In other words, there are 2 groups. There's the group in Israel that are going back. They don't know why they're going back, but they're going back driven by God, because I believe we're getting toward the end of things. And then there's the second group that the Bible calls the synagogue of Satan, and it's that crowd that puts out all of your literature, the pornographic literature. They're the ones that are the left-wingers. They're the revolutionary leaders. They're the ones that control the media.
I think they're all one and the same. I think the CIA is one of the major contributors controlling the media, which we saw that in a previous video, and it was actually in front of a commission where they were asked about that and they wouldn't answer.
If you're not ticking off some people, you're not doing your job right.
My colleague and friend Senator Durbin called you a conspiracy theorist. You remember that?
I do, Senator.
You were instrumental in revealing that the Trump-Russia election collusion hoax was a hoax, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I was the lead investigator.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories, because all the old ones turned out to be true.
In the book, I love Senator Kennedy. He is so funny, but he is very wise, and he speaks his mind.
Freemasons magazine, a Masonic Mirror Volume 4. This is from the 1800s. A Masonic publication. It says on page 399,
the brothers and fellows of the Freemasons are the scholastici and coadutors spirituales of the Jesuits. For the temporal or secular Jesuits are not yet members of the order. They are not to do their own proper will, for the order of the Jesuits requires absolute obedience, and the secular Jesuits do not yet know that Freemasonry is under the direction of the order. The secrets and secrecy of the Masons allude to the secrets of the Nostri or Notres. The Valley of Jehoshaphat, even, by its initial J, represents the Jesuits and symbolizes the whole surface of the globe, where the Masons are not to know that they are the slaves of the Jesuits. By the way, they certainly do not know it. The word mosaic, relating to pavement, we are told is written in italics to symbolize the artifice of Moses, who knew how to blind the people of Israel to make them his partisans. The blazing star is the sun, the emblem of the order, the symbol of omnipotence. The Master Mason represents the chief of the Notres, or Nostri, and refers to the general. The four principles, the four vows of the initiated Jesuits.
So what this Masonic publication is saying is that the Masons fall directly under the Jesuits, but that only on the absolute highest levels the Masons are aware of this.
Of course they do. That's very well known. I don't trust any Freemasons. I've actually gotten in some used to be Twitter, wars with Freemasons. I'll save that for another time, but it was funny.
The scariest moment of the journey?
Scariest. It didn't happen. It could have been scary. Circuit breaker.
I don't want to be presumptuous here. I can call you Buzz, okay?
That's a legal name, passport, driver's license.
And I am Uncle Coney tonight. Let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does. I remember my parents waking me up, and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon,
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. See, you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
Well, 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
You know, the moon rocks that they brought back actually turned out to be petrified wood. How embarrassing is that?
Now, I'm going to casually mention to you something that's very scary indeed, and tell you what the alien agenda is. And it's going to sound very familiar. The alien agenda is the complete takeover of this planet, the killing off of 5, 6 to 7/8 of the world's population by the year 2029. U.S. military has known about this for 45 years. They've told no one. As far as I know, I'm the only person standing before a crowd talking about the alien agenda, secretively.
I actually believe that it's not aliens, it's demons. The Bible talks about it, but people will see. People's going to open their eyes.
Is that a gang sign that you don't know what it is? You don't know what that is. I have no idea. You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know. You don't know. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue.
And then we have another crazy billionaire, Bill Gates, says there's too many of us. His thing by 2030 is to depopulate the planet, and I just wondered, like, are we part of the population that he wants to Says there's too many of us. And he says it, and people go, it's a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy theory. He said it. Bill Gates, you go see on YouTube. He says one of the goals by 2030 is to lower the population of the planet, and one of the ways to do that is using vaccines. It's like, what? And people go, no, that's a conspiracy theory. So he said it. You can go see. He said, yeah, but it's a conspiracy theory to think, he meant what he said. He meant it. He's doing it, and it's working.
How did Japan attack Hawaii on a flat Earth? Well, simple. There's your map. Take a look, because right now we're about to look at flight paths and why they make no sense on a globe. Auckland to Lima, Peru, stops in Los Angeles. Why? Makes sense on a flat Earth. Buenos Aires to New Delhi. Stops in Amsterdam. Makes no sense on a globe. Perfect sense on a flat Earth. Here we have Sydney to Lima, Peru, which stops in Los Angeles. On a globe, it makes 0 sense. But on a flat Earth, it looks like it makes sense. Let's take a look at Wellington to Lima, which stops in Los Angeles. Again, makes 0 sense on a globe, but perfect sense on a flat Earth. Now let's look at Wellington to Mexico City, which stops in Los Angeles. On a flat Earth, it makes a lot of sense. Look at that. You got Wellington to Los Angeles, and then you go to Mexico City. Perfect sense. Now on the globe model, we have what looks like the most ridiculous. What's happening? Why would this ever happen? That would not be a flight path. It makes no sense. But again, this is all my opinion. I recommend everyone does their own research and comes to their own conclusions. I love you.
This is the real Ronald McDonald, not the one you remember from commercials. In 1892, a drifter named Ronald McDonald toured county fairs across the Midwest. Bright red coat, yellow waistcoat, a painted smile so wide it cut into his cheeks. He called his tent the Happy Meal. Admission was free for children. Each child got a small paper box. Parents saw nothing wrong. But children stepped out pale and silent. By summer's end, 12 children had vanished from towns where his tent appeared. 20 years later, an advertising company in Chicago bought an old fairground poster to inspire a new mascot for a growing restaurant chain. They kept the name, they kept the colors, they kept the smile, and every time you've seen it since, you've been looking at a killer's face.
That's kind of like a double meaning almost.
Why?
Because I feel like they're telling you that McDonald's kills, fast food kills.
Wait a minute. Remember my theory about fast food and how there's not enough beef to go around?
Yeah.
What if that story is actually true? And not only that, in the video, he was showing that he was kidnapping kids. There's a lot of missing kids. There's a lot of missing people. They might be using humans for fast food. What if this is like the actual dark origin that we don't know about?
You can't put it past them. Because at the end of the day, McDonald's does kill.
We could be eating human beings.
Well, didn't they say that it's part of the meat is tested positive for human?
A portion of a lot of fast food tests positive for human DNA. Only 30% of Taco Bell meat is actually beef.
I don't eat McDonald's, and I haven't in probably 10 years. But how do they have enough beef to go around? I mean, they say they sell billions a day. Where do they get all that beef?
New World Order, Mr. Rothschild. Right. New World Order. Depopulation.
Oh, listen, who are you?
Genocide.
Who are you televising for?
Well, we're independent
filmmakers.
But you have nothing to say, Mr. Rothschild.
Have a nice life, sir.
Of course he has nothing to say. He doesn't want to tell his secrets.
I warn you, if you make any further inquiries, or if you say a single word to anyone about what you have seen, there will be
Hollywood is so Holly weird.
And I were doing a training mission around the United States where you just were building up hours and time. And we take off out of Beale, hit a tanker in Idaho, rip on up to Montana, zip across Denver, hang a right turn in Albuquerque, out over Los Angeles, up to Seattle, back into Sacramento, 2 hours, 21 minutes. And you just do that then you do it backwards and you hit a tanker. So it's just to gain crew coordination, build your hours. We're on our last training mission. We're over Tucson. I can see downtown LA from Tucson. We're at 89,000 feet. I can see the whole western United States bathed in a warm October fall glow.
SR-71 Air Force pilot Brian Schul states that he was flying above Tucson, Arizona at 89,000 feet, and he was able to see Los Angeles and the whole western seaboard. Now, of course, this is not possible if the Earth is in fact a spinning ball, because Brian Schul's max view distance would have only been 365 miles, Los Angeles being covered up by 9,000 970 feet of curved earth. Let's continue.
I can see the chain of Rocky Mountains from Canada to New Mexico.
Oh, what was that, Brian? Did you just say you could see all the Rocky Mountains from New Mexico to Canada?
I can see the chain of Rocky Mountains from Canada to New Mexico.
I guess Brian did say that. So, from the tip of New Mexico to the very edge of Canada is 1,150 miles. Now, I'm assuming Brian was still flying over Tucson when he saw the Rocky Mountains, but even if he wasn't and was in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, his max view distance would not allow him to see either New Mexico or Canada, simply because the Earth is supposed to be curved. If Brian was still flying over Tucson, Arizona and saw the Rockies extend from New Mexico to Canada, that's 77 miles of missing curved Earth. If he was in the center of the Rockies, he still only has a max view at 365 miles at 89,000 feet. Folks, throw your globes in the trash, wipe the tears away. The Earth is flat. Proven by the United States Air Force.
We've been lied to about so much. I mean, nothing would surprise me anymore. I have a Nikon P1000, which is a super zoom camera, and I like to take pictures of the moon. I like to do time lapse of the star trails around Polaris, and I also have a friend that lives in Indonesia. From where I am and in the United States and where he is, we are exactly 12 hours apart. But we can get on Messenger and we can take pictures of the moon at the same exact time. I don't know, how does that make sense? Someone tell me. Leave me a comment. I'd like to know.
I've seen in all the autopsies I've done of cancer patients, not one of them died of cancer. They died of liver failure, they died of cardiac failure, renal failure, all due to chemotherapy. We got a patient that had been through chemo and radiation, and they had cooked her liver and cooked her kidneys. We looked at the blood work and realized she had no organ function to speak of left. And I said, we can make her more comfortable, but the radiation treatment that they used on her has actually destroyed her organs. So we did what we could. She'd been given 3 weeks, we gave her 6 months, and she got time to say goodbye to her family. But I remember walking into the office the morning after she passed, and this internist was sitting on the waiting room couch. And I said, what's the problem? And she looked at me and she said, I'm doing the death certificate, and I don't know what to write for cause of death. I said, you might try writing the truth for a change. And she said, you know how much trouble I can get in by doing that? I said, if you're going to study with me, you're going to write the truth. And she wrote radiation poisoning, cause of death. She's the only doctor I've ever seen do that. She actually had the courage to tell the truth.
It's so sad. Cancer is, what do they say, it's 1 in 2 people will die from cancer, but they're giving it to us in the poisons, the food, the air, the water. But they've had a cure for it, but they don't want to give it out because it's just another part of their depopulation agenda. So sad.
The United States is owned by foreign corporations. Nixon opened it up for foreign trade. And when Nixon opened up for foreign trade, the people of Europe and the common market and Spain and different places, they don't care about the United States forest. And in short, the United States has been sold out by people who really don't care for anything but money. I've had all the money in the world 3 times. I had to give it back to keep the game going.
What game?
The game. It's a game. Money is a game. It's only real to the people who work for it. The people that don't need to work for money, it's a monopoly game. It's a game of paper. It's all on paper. I've got a production company, and I've got a recording company, and I've got a mansion in Beverly Hills, and I've got Rolls Royces and Ferraris. I've got everything money can buy, but it's all on paper. Everything's done through the companies and through the tax loopholes, and the people that live on that level, they don't care about the average honest mule that just goes back and forwards to work. They don't care about the children that are in the streets that are thrown out of this upper echelon of existence. And then when all the children fall down into me, on my level, I pretty much identify with them because I was a throwaway also. So it goes to the point of, do you really care?
When you said...
And who does care? And if anybody cares, they're considered crazy. I've been 15 years in the nut ward for trying to stop the trees from being cut down, from trying to rearrange a lifestyle of a bunch of people who don't want to change. But they're going to change because the cold wind is blowing.
Wow, Charles Manson speaking truthfully. Well, I just heard it. And, you know, he was an experiment. If you've never read the book Chaos, I would highly recommend that. You'll learn a lot.
So for the God of the Freemasons, yes. To join Freemasonry, you have to be invited. You can't just join.
True.
And the general sort of understanding is that this is going to be very good for business, for social interaction, for your career.
So they allow you to worship like Jehovah or Yahweh?
You can worship any god you want, but that's the only qualification. Because they're going to convert whoever they are over to worshiping the great architect of the universe, Hail El, Satan. AI has the same destination whether you're doing it for good or evil. So it's like good magic and black magic.
Do these people know that they're advancing a system that has been prophesied as having to happen for the rise of the Antichrist, or do they not?
The fallen angels continue to tell their offspring, their descendants of their offspring, that they can still win.
Is there a hierarchy for these things like Illuminati, Freemasons?
The fairy tale concept goes back many years for when they're ready to reveal things, that we would accept that more easily, and they can tell us that they told us, we just didn't understand. This fairy tale concept Tolkien and Lewis were talking about is they consider the Bible a fairy tale because they both said so. I'll show you their doctrines and the fruits of their works, and if they ever became Christian, they never recanted their writings. Many Freemasons are witches. Why? Because they're adepts, and they are leading the setting up of new towns. They're there to set up their legal claim to the new continent.
Wow. The whole world actually is a stage. We are in the Matrix. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please again like and subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.